A little over a year ago, my best friend got married, and everything was great. I welcomed his wife with open arms and treated her like family. Long story short, one day, she started screaming at me over politics, even though I was trying to avoid the topic and didn't mention anything political. She assumed I voted for Trump, accused me of putting a rapist in office, and since then has treated me harshly. I tried multiple times to let it go and forgave, but didn't forget. She's accused me of trying to cheat on my girlfriend, caused scenes, and made my home uncomfortable when she's over. I put my foot down and told my friend that his wife is not allowed over until there's an apology and significant changes. She has never apologized or changed. Yesterday, he wanted to come over with his wife, and I told him he can't. We got into a fight over it. He tried to claim that I started all the fights, and all I did was yell, "Stop lying." And that was that. I feel upset that it's come to this, but I don't know what to do or say now. Story 1. You and he need to have some beers and work this out. Choose a neutral space, just the two of you. I'm not saying you're not going to lose your friend, but that's your next step if you want to keep them. Story 2. You can't change psychopaths. Just imagine how she is behind closed doors. Feel sorry for your friend. Story 3. As someone who was married to a person who changed over time, I can understand that your friend is probably in agony. However, that's no excuse for you to have to endure her behavior. Just realize your friend is with her all the time. All I would say is to have some compassion for your friend and avoid arguments where you can. Be firm about what you won't tolerate, but always keep the door open. My late wife passed away, and my friends welcomed me back. Maybe someday he may no longer be with her. Story 4. I had a friend who married such a woman, and he disappeared for about 10 years. He reappeared after the divorce and found another woman with similar toxic traits. Story 5. It is what it is. Your friend should understand the situation he puts you in, so I don't get why he wanted to bring her over. Story 6. It really depends on whether you were actually in the wrong or not, and we can't determine that because you left out a lot of what would help us. We're only getting one side of the story here, and being as specific as possible about the words exchanged will help us reach a better understanding of the situation. Story 7. Not only men but abusers in general often behave this way to drive away friends and family to isolate their victims. Men are also victims of domestic violence at rates nearly equal to women. It's just less talked about because they don't end up dead as often as women. Still abuse, though. So, while you may lose your friend over this, you may want to keep the door open so he knows he can reach out in the future should he decide to leave. Story 8. Keep your foot down. Maybe talk to your friend again when you've both calmed down and have a civil discussion about his psychopathic wife's actions. Just the two of you. If he refuses, then there is nothing you can do. Story 9. I tried several times to have hangouts. In your 20-plus years of friendship, there has barely been a significant other on his end, or maybe yours too. So the presence of a wife definitely changes the dynamic between you two, her attitude aside, and that's what I'll address first. You don't have to hang around or get along with your friend's wife, and neither does he have to bring her around every time he wants to hang with you. A failure in attempting to work things out or get along with her may make your friend feel like he's choosing between you and her, but it's not that complicated. It's just a matter of you drawing your boundaries for someone who doesn't quite understand you, and she doesn't have to understand you. That's okay too. At the end of the day, there are people who don't like their friends' spouses or the other way around, but have to respect their friend's union with the significant other while they, in turn, deserve respect for their reservations due to a disagreement or whatever else. Story 10. Long story short, if you believe there is valuable information here, it's worth investigating what triggered your thoughts. If you want to save the friendship, consider acknowledging something you're responsible for and apologize to your friend, even if just to show accountability. He will not choose you over his wife, so don't put him in a difficult position. This situation does not concern your friend's marriage, so the less you focus on it, the better. What matters is how the two of you communicate with each other. You are friends with him, not his wife. You should maintain a respectful relationship even if you don't connect well with his significant other. Story 11. Fight in the middle of the street, no shirts, open hand slaps only. Then crack a few beers and hug it out. Story 12. The worst part is the reality that, in most cases, they cannot agree with you even if you're right because it would mean making their own home life worse. Story 13. I would send him a text that says, "Sorry I yelled yesterday. It means a lot to me that it's the first time in 20 years that's happened. I really value our friendship, and I don't want it to happen again. Clearly, there are some serious problems between your wife and me that are interfering with our friendship. I don't think it's true or fair that I've been starting the fights between us. In fact, I think the opposite. But whatever has been happening, I'm willing to work on things becoming more cordial between the two of us. I'd love to start with a rule that she and I simply never discuss politics around each other at all if she's agreeable to that. If there are things she wants to ask me moving forward, I'm willing to listen and honor them if I can. I appreciate you're caught in a difficult situation, and I want you to know that I love you and care about you a lot. Let me know what you think of this when you've had a chance to process it." Story 14. Guys will usually choose their wife or girlfriend over their friends, especially if they are inexperienced with women. Basically, you need to move on and find different friends. The same thing happened to me. A friend of mine got married, became involved with his wife, and that was the end of the friendship. It happens. Be aware the whole politics thing could be a smokescreen. Some women may attempt to isolate their husband from his friends as part of a program to control his behavior, doing this in a calculated and deliberate way. In that case, the politics are just her excuse to drive a wedge between you and her husband. You can tell if this is the case if she is alienating him from his other friends as well. Story 15. Sometimes in life, the only choices before you are all unpleasant, and you have to decide which one to accept. You do not have to like your buddy's wife. You do have to respect your buddy, and ideally you should try to respect and be polite to the wife. But from what you said, you tried that. It helps to remember that entirely reasonable and sane people can have completely opposed viewpoints on important issues. So now it is down to setting boundaries. The problem here is that there is no universe in which your buddy is likely to choose your side over his wife. He has to, and presumably wants to, live with her, not you. I would say that the next time you talk to your buddy, you should say something like, "Hey, at this point, it does not matter if it is me or your wife who is starting the fights. What matters is that every time we are in the same room, a fight happens. I do not want to keep arguing with your wife, so I am opting to stay away from her as much as possible. She is not welcome in my home. I wish it were different, but that is how it has to be. End the conversation at that point and just deal with the fallout as best you can." Story 16. You were put in a situation where you had to enforce your boundaries and stand up for yourself because other people made assumptions, turned them into truth, and refused to listen to how you experienced the whole thing. In my opinion, you had a very understandable reaction to a situation that got out of hand. My approach would most likely be to extend a hand but be very firm about the wife having to apologize for basically making things up and causing unnecessary drama. However, in my experience, people like that rarely change, so it might be a lost cause. In a worst-case scenario, she'll take your friend down with her. Story 17. If possible, organize a work lunch with yourself and him without her. Let him know that he's your friend, but due to her bringing politics into every meeting, she's not welcome. Story 18. It is up to him to salvage the friendship. Unless you are an awful friend, he needs to set boundaries with his wife. I went through this exact scenario with two friends. One friend I met in college dated a girl with borderline personality disorder who threw public temper tantrums and screamed at him in front of others numerous times. Gradually, he became alienated from all his friends as she dominated his life until he vanished and went no contact with everyone. 5 years later, I saw his house on the market and reached out to find out he was going through a bitter divorce. All our mutual friends pretty much gave up on him, and I tried to reach out and be supportive, but he was not receptive. A lifelong friend I grew up with was very close until maybe 10 years ago when he met a new girl. He started to become a little distant, which is understandable. One day he invited me and another mutual friend to a birthday event they were throwing for another couple. His girlfriend was working and didn't join us until that evening, but the day was very fun. When she showed up, she immediately was snappy with us and my friend, and the tension seemed high. While driving us back to their condo, she started screaming at my other friend over something insignificant. like a girl he had talked to and then said goodbye to as he was ready to call it a night and not interested in her. She was screaming at the top of her lungs and driving erratically, then turned the radio up as loud as possible. When we got back to their condo, my friend got us outside and was making excuses like, she's just being a female, while she was in the house screaming and slamming doors like a child. He eventually got her into the bedroom, and we passed out in the living room. The next morning she left, once again slamming multiple doors. When they got married, I got an invite, but our other friend didn't, and we all grew up together. They have since had a child together, but I have only seen that friend a couple of times in the last 6 years, and it was just the guys going to a concert without her there. He seems to make excuses for her often and intentionally keeps her away from friends. She gets by with it because she is at least a 9 out of 10. Your friend is in for a rough ride, as she will eventually drive away all his friends if he lets her. Then he will be the one facing the brunt of her abuse. Story 19. So, this is one of those hard things about getting older. Sooner or later, you're going to lose a good friend through actions you might not have committed. I knew this guy that I used to hang out with, helping him with a lot of housework. Over time, he met a woman who wanted to change him. She started telling him that all of his childhood friends were using him or were just terrible people. Eventually, she convinced him to cut off a lot of his friends. The friends she was okay with all dislike her. I don't consider him a friend anymore. He's now married to her because he's afraid of being alone. The lesson from this is, even if you care about someone, they have to be strong enough to stand up for themselves. If they aren't, this happens. Story 20. Crazy girlfriends have ruined a few of my friendships. I had to pick and choose, basically. My best friend of over 20 years did that. He hasn't been the same in years, and I see him maybe once a year now. Story 21. When your friend realizes his wife is the problem, leaves her, and then comes to you to make amends. He was blind but can now see. Story 22. What exactly was her political issue about? What was said? It feels like there could be some context here we may need. Story 23. If she's randomly yelling at you, there is an issue. If you said something offensive and she yelled at you, you're the issue. Edit. Reading your comments and your indifference to politics shows that you're likely being inconsiderate. Women's rights have been degraded recently, and it's understandable that she's upset about that. Your indifference to politics is a privilege. Story 24. Not going to lie, I've been in your friend's situation before. Sadly, there's probably not much you can do. I remember many of my friends telling me how horrible she was, and I still didn't listen. It wasn't until she cheated on me that I realized what a piece of junk she was. I think your friend is going to have to go through something similar. Hopefully not being cheated on, but I think your friend will have to endure some difficulties before he realizes. Story 25. What's the old saying? Don't fight with stupidity, and that is what this looks like. You could have resolved this early when the troublemaker was fabricating stories. You did not. You thought taking the high road and ignoring her bad behavior would bring change. Surprise, it did not. You cannot ignore a child's bad behavior, and now you are seeing the result. Now the delusional friend is believing her false stories and, unsurprisingly, not believing you. If you have a group of people that she is part of, you will now need to A. Prove to the group what she is wrong about, B. Inform the group of her bad behavior, and C. Remain vigilant. Also, never allow her into your home. From now on, only meet on neutral ground until she loses her influence and people see her for what she is. You may wish to include your girlfriend. She may have a better approach. Story 26. We can all be blind to our own faults. Take a moment to consider whether it's true that she's starting conflict or true that you are. If it's her, make it clear that you value the friendship and are there for him, but don't want to be subject to the conflict she brings. Make an effort to arrange one-on-one time. If it's you, consider it an opportunity to apologize, clear the air, and make changes in your approach. Story 27. I don't think you can expect your friend to choose you or decent behavior over his wife. So I think what's done is done. They are no longer your friends and not your concern, though some other comments here indicate there may be abuse involved, which you should report if so. Story 28. Hold your boundary. Maybe if your friend ever finds his courage, he'll eventually follow suit and hold her accountable for acting irrationally. Story 29. In a quiet moment, and without his wife present, try talking to your best friend. Explain how you feel and why you have distanced yourself. Story 30. Say nothing. They owe you an apology. Why should you have someone who disrespects you over at your house? I wouldn't even talk to them again until they give me a genuine apology if I were you. I can't stand people so into politics they act like psychos, and I'm talking both liberals and conservatives. Story 31. If I were in your position and had one-on-one time with my friend, I wouldn't approach it with drama but simply ask, do you think the way your wife speaks to me is warranted or acceptable? That's the issue. That's why she's not invited over. You know what she said, and he knows what he saw and heard. If he's upset about her not being allowed over, this is the reason, so ask him the question. Do it calmly. It doesn't have to be an argument. These are all factual things that have been said. An added benefit of doing it this way is that you're speaking to him calmly and casually, while she's likely being loud and emotional. Even if he doesn't agree at the time, it plants a seed, and you're still someone he can talk to and have a conversation with that resembles a normal one. Story 32. My best advice is to be supportive of your friend. Have your boundaries, absolutely. Be there when he needs you with open arms. Because he will eventually need you. She sounds difficult. Story 33. Take your friend out for lunch and talk to him seriously, one-on-one. Chances are his wife influenced him to act that way towards you, and he has to live with her, so of course he did it. Just talk to him and say you never had a problem with her. She's just unreasonable and needs to apologize. Story 34. I've had it out with a few friends over the years. Just give it a few days to cool down and send a message or something. Just being honest and apologizing for any line crossing. Story 35. I don't think you should be so close to his wife. Why were you talking so much in the first place? I don't think that's good. Story 36. Laughing out loud. I'll take my downvotes, I don't care. It's so funny how a conservative person will say, we got in an argument over politics, they reacted badly, and then will never explain exactly what the political argument was, laughing my head off. Story 37. If your side of the story is accurate, maybe just don't be friends with these people anymore. That's adulthood. Story 38. Well, there's almost definitely more to this story than you're letting on. Whenever people play dumb about why someone got mad at them, it's generally because they said or did something wrong and are trying to frame themselves as innocent victims. Your other comments and the way you're describing this make me think you know exactly why you and your friend's wife don't get along anymore. I assume you're coming here for validation and not actual advice, though, or to just tell a made-up story. Best of luck with your friend if this is real. I hope it works out best for all of you. Story 39. Do you really want him back? If he's defending her behavior, is it worth it? If you think it is, talk to your friend and say, listen, if we are still going to be friends, there need to be some boundaries in place, and then outline those boundaries. You should also listen to his boundaries. If there aren't boundaries you can agree on, see if a compromise can be made. If you can't agree, then it's time to say goodbye. Unfortunately, sometimes we lose our best friends to the worst people, but you also need to prioritize yourself and your needs. People change, and sometimes they just no longer fit what you need from them. Story 40. Sounds like she wanted to isolate him from you. It's a devious path that she took, creating discord between you and her, while playing innocent with him. She is gaslighting him, claiming that you started it. He is married to her, so he pretty much has to take her side. Now, you won't allow him over with her, and she won't let him see you without her. She has successfully driven a wedge between you and your friend. I suspect you are not alone. Check in with his other friends and family. If I'm right, she will be working on alienating them too. Story 41. Sounds like your friend let a poisonous viper coil around him. I don't know, nothing blinds a man easier than a woman. You might just have to keep your distance and hope he eventually sees her for what she is. Try to keep the lines of communication open with him, but other than that, yes, that really is unfortunate. Story 42. She won. Took long enough, but she finally did it. She had to compete with you for his time and attention, and now she has him all to herself. Story 43. Time heals all things. When I was younger, my two friends, who were brothers, would watch a television show once a week. One of them got married, and his partner couldn't handle being alone at home, so he stopped doing what we loved because he didn't know what else to do. People often don't want to challenge their partners. When you get married, you should ask your partner if they are working on their insecurities and what issues cause them to hurt others because of unresolved trauma. No one can be perfect, of course, but if your friend has that conversation, they can at least address it and recognize that part of her responses are due to her not dealing with those issues. She is acting immaturely, and she will likely behave similarly with him when they have a disagreement. Story 44. A best friend will always be a best friend. Do not force him into choosing because he should choose his wife. Make peace and be nice. You don't need to be friends, but be cordial for your best friend. The only one this argument will hurt is your friend. Swallow your pride, be the bigger person, and love your friend. Story 45. She sounds unintelligent, but you should never engage in a heated argument with your friend's spouse, even if you are long-term friends. Just don't reply, stay away, and don't share any personal information. Yelling about politics and blaming one person for a flawed system is irrational. In general, yelling in arguments or conversations is foolish. Meet with him at a bar or neutral place for both of you, just the two of you, and talk it out. Avoid speaking negatively about her and avoid any conversation about her. Keep the gathering light, as he probably also feels upset that you're on bad terms. You can maintain the friendship without involving spouses. I think he will eventually need to vent about his wife. Do not engage in it. Just listen. Don't speak poorly of her. Just listen to him vent. Story 46. The unfortunate reality is he chose to marry someone who is extremely toxic. You have every right to tell him not to come over if he refuses to come without her. I hope his life gets better and they work things out. Story 47. Just search for the problem and talk about it. It's possible a misunderstanding happened. If it's only, and what? It's doubtful. I tried to find her, but it's difficult, and it didn't always work. I really prefer to be with her. She's a childhood friend I have, but she seems to dislike Facebook and social media. She's also a 20-year-old friend. Story 48. Sorry to hear about that. I wish she saw how you treated her like family. It doesn't matter who started it. She isn't allowed to continue that behavior with you. I don't think you should force an apology from her, but it's best to aim for changes in behavior. I'm not sure why your friend wants to bring his wife over too. Does he not want to spend time with you alone? Was he there to see her act like this toward you? Feels like he's been misled by his wife. Trying to cheat as a concept is blowing my mind. She is not in her right mind. Story 49. Break up with him over coffee. If he wants to call the wife, just break up with him over text. Hopefully, they don't go on social media disparaging you, but it's likely it will happen. Story 50. Once your friend gets married, it's a death sentence. Just try to be there for him when he gets divorced. Story 51. You need to let him go. He is married to her. Marriage comes before friendships. If you cannot be around her, then you need to let go of the friendship altogether. It is difficult, but it is best for everyone involved. He will most likely encounter the same issues with her in his next friendships, so you may be able to resume the friendship in the future once the marriage ends. She sounds difficult. Story 52. I highly doubt you have been best friends for 20 years if you both can't navigate a simple disagreement. Story 53. Terrible when your best friend falls for the wrong person. It happens all the time to both men and women. Sugh. Story 54. Haven't you realized it yet? The new wife never liked you. She just pretended she did in the beginning. Now that she's married to your friend, she is actively trying to separate you two and get you out of his life. It was her plan all along. Story 55. Bummer. Trump derangement syndrome has destroyed many friendships. All you can do is be ready to reconnect when his wife turns on him and destroys their marriage too. Story 56. Sounds like a typical tolerant leftist you are dealing with. To be honest, you are better off without either of them. As you get older, you will come across these things, and you have already noted that she has never changed, and your whipped buddy is just as bad. Forget about it, friend. Trust me, it will only get worse, and you will never properly forgive or forget. These people walk around thinking everything they believe is how everyone else should be. If you dare say otherwise, you will be pushed away. She will never change, and neither will he, because he has already fully submitted to her manipulation. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.